Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, December the 27th. So normally we have like pretty big slates on Friday nights, but for this Friday night slate, we only got 5 games. We're still going to go through each position though, talk about the plays that I like the most at each position. What stands out to me, just taking a first look at the slate. I am recording this video on Thursday night, so these are just kind of some of my early thoughts. If you guys want to get access to all of my updated and in-depth content, I do provide a lot of that over on Patreon. You can check out my Patreon link down below, see everything I have to offer over there. I put in a couple hours a day on YouTube, getting up YouTube videos for you guys, but a lot of the hours I put in throughout the day is going over to my Patreon content, my articles, private videos, my slate breakdowns, roster construction videos, updated core plays. I have so much stuff going up on Patreon throughout the week. Post NBA content Monday through Friday, and I have NFL content over there as well. So check all that out. I will have my NFL video up for the Week 17 slate. It'll be going up Friday morning. So by the time you're watching this, there's a chance my NFL video for Week 17 is already up. If you want to check that out, I would greatly appreciate it. But drop a like on this video if you do enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below at DFS by Noah. Feel free to give me a follow over on Twitter. But let's go ahead and take a look at this 5-game Friday night slate. Start off at point guard. So at the top, we got Trae Young as our most expensive option, $10,800 in a matchup at home against the Bucks. So I really like this spot for Trae Young. I think this is a very favorable matchup for him against the Bucks. The Bucks have actually struggled this season defending point guards. If you just look at DVP stats, they have been one of the worst defensive teams versus point guards in terms of fantasy points allowed. This is a Bucks team that does play at a very fast pace. They lead the league in pace this season. The Hawks are playing pretty fast as well. The Hawks rank 8th. So both of these teams are top 10 in pace this season. And we see that in the total. Right now, this game has the highest total on the slate at 237.5. Only thing that's concerning is that this game does have an 11-point spread. So there is some blowout concern here. But we've seen this season, even in games that blow out, Trae Young is locked into big minutes. Like, there was a game earlier this season, I think it was against the Knicks. They were down like 30 points going into the fourth quarter, and Trae Young literally didn't even come off the floor. He played 41 minutes in nearly a 30-point loss against the Knicks. Like, they're just running Trae Young into the ground. They're playing him huge minutes every night. At home, he tends to always play big minutes as well. He's always been a little bit better at home, just in terms of like fantasy production. I mean, if this game can stay close, it's very likely that Trae Young is the reason why. Trae Young and John Collins, I mean, those two guys are going to do all the heavy lifting for the Hawks. And we saw last game, even with John Collins back, you still got a big game from Trae Young against the Cavs. I mean, it makes sense. It was a really favorable matchup. He still put up 63 DraftKings points in 36 minutes against them with John Collins healthy. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 steals. I think we can get another big game from Trae Young today. And at 10-8 on DraftKings, I don't think many people are going to pay that salary. So I like going to him as an early look, just kind of pay up option. You do have Giannis on this slate for 11-3, and I really like Giannis as well. It's just, I'm a little concerned with the blowout. If this game does blow out, I mean, Giannis is not going to play probably more than 26 minutes. Like, even if this game gets ugly, there's a chance that Trae Young is still out there in the fourth quarter. Even if they're losing by 25, 30, he's probably still playing huge minutes. So I think he's pretty much blowout proof at this point. Giannis, on the other hand, especially with him being injured right now, I mean, he's probable for this game. He's expected to play. But if this game even gets somewhat out of hand, they're going to sit Giannis at the earliest convenience that they can. So I think there's a little bit of risk with him. $500 difference. A lot of people are probably just going to play Giannis over Young. I definitely like going to Trae Young, especially in tournaments, because I think he's going to be low owned on DraftKings. I think on Yahoo, you're going to see more ownership go to Trae Young, where he's actually he's $9 cheaper than Giannis. I mean, I definitely prefer Young there. At $47 on Yahoo, he's one of my favorite spend-up options as well. And there is some value that I like today. There could potentially be even more value depending on if Malcolm Brogdon is out. But there's some good value at center that we'll talk about. So I think it's pretty easy to get to Young if you want to go that route. And I like going to him here in a fast-paced game. Just kind of hope it stays competitive. Even if it doesn't, very good chance that Trae Young is still out there even in a blowout. So I like paying up for him at point guard. Then if I'm not going to him, I think D'Angelo Russell makes a ton of sense. 7,400 against the Suns. I like this matchup for Russell. Suns are definitely a team you can attack, just in terms of their pace. I mean, they are playing at a pretty fast pace this season. Right now, they're 9th in pace. I'm pretty sure in terms of defensive rating, they're about towards about they're bottom 11 in the league. I mean, they rank 19th in defensive rating. but definitely a friendly matchup here for D'Angelo Russell. Good thing to see is that this game does have a 2.5 point spread. It's being played in Golden State as well, so very likely that this game stays close and we get full minutes from D'Angelo Russell. In games that have stayed close this season, I mean, he's playing pretty much like 32, 33 minutes in those close games. We've seen him get like 34, 36 minutes at times, but I think most nights you're going to get probably 32, like 31 to 32 minutes from Russell in close games. I mean, with Steph Curry off the floor this season, his numbers are insane. I mean, his usage rate is through the roof. We can take a look at it just real quick just so you guys can see. But if we take Curry off, pretty sure Russell's usage is over like 32 or 33%, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 33% usage rate, 35% assist percentage, averaging 1.17 fantasy points per minute this season with Curry off the floor. So definitely have interest in D'Angelo Russell at 7,400. I think he's a really good option in that mid-range. Also, I really like Ricky Rubio, and I think Ricky Rubio might go overlooked today, especially when you see that Devin Booker is actually cheaper than Rubio. A lot of people are probably just going to play Rubio over Booker. But if we actually look at the Suns, just their usage this season in terms of in terms of fantasy production, Rubio's actually been pretty much a more productive player overall. This season, Devin Booker's averaged 1.03 fantasy points per minute. Ricky Rubio has averaged 1.11 fantasy points per minute. So just in terms of fantasy point per minute production, Rubio's actually been more productive than Booker this season. His assist percentage is through the roof as well. He's got nearly a 40% assist percentage. Devin Booker's assist percentage is at 28%. Booker has the higher usage rate between the two guys. But I think I prefer Rubio today, especially if a lot of people are going to be attracted to Booker given his salary. Rubio makes for an easy pivot in tournaments. On Yahoo, we have Booker at $33 at shooting guard, Rubio at $29 at point guard. Definitely give me Rubio in that situation as well. Rubio's this dude's been great for the Suns this season in terms of fantasy. In close games this season as well, he's playing 33, 34, 35 minutes. We've seen him get like 36, 37 minutes in some games as well. Games like against OKC, the Clippers, those were blowouts. You only got 24, 28 minutes from Rubio. I mean, you look in competitive games this season, he's playing 33, 34 minutes. He's putting up 35, 40 fantasy points most nights, if not more. Upside is definitely there for Rubio. Really like him against this Warriors team that we know does not play defense. I mean, looking at defensive rating, they're 23rd in defensive rating this season. This is definitely a team you can attack. So I love Rubio at 7,100, especially if he's going to come in much lower owned than Booker today. SGA, I think, is a really good option as well in that price range. 6,800 against the Hornets, especially with Gallinari out. SGA does pick up a little bit more usage, so I could see going to him. Same with Dennis Schroeder. I think I would still prefer SGA over Schroeder, but both those guys make plenty of sense. Draymond Green, I think you can definitely go to as well. Pretty much like this Suns-Warriors game I really like. I think that's one of the games that I'll definitely be targeting on this slate. I mean, just with the 3 games that we have that have totals, we don't have totals yet in Oklahoma City, Charlotte, where I'm seeing some sites have that game as a 210 in total with 4.5 spread. But Philly, Orlando only has a 210 total with 3-point spread. Milwaukee, Atlanta obviously leads the slate in terms of total, but it does have an 11-point spread. 222 total in Golden State, Phoenix with a 2-point spread. That game has a chance to be pretty high scoring, and it has a chance to stay competitive as well. So a guy like Draymond Green probably plays 30, 32 minutes. 6,300, you could definitely go there on DraftKings today. Point guard and small forward eligible, so you have a lot of flexibility with your roster. Aaron Holiday, I'm going to like quite a bit if Malcolm Brogdon's out again. I was all over him on the last slate once we got the news Brogdon was out. He put up a massive game, 42 DraftKings points in 31 minutes. I know that game went to overtime, but even at the end of overtime or at the end of regulation, he still had a big game, or he was still putting up a big game. His price is up to 5,400, and it's not a good matchup, but he does produce pretty well when Brogdon's off the floor when he starts at point guard. I know he's really cheap on Yahoo. Aaron Holiday's all the way at $13. He'd be one of the top value plays again on Yahoo today if Brogdon is ultimately ruled out. We'll just kind of have to wait and see there. Right now, he's a game-time decision. But going back to this Milwaukee and Atlanta game, I definitely like Kevin Huerter as well. 5,200 on DraftKings. We've seen him play pretty big minutes just the last 4 games. He's played at least 32 minutes in 4 straight games. Got 36 minutes in that game against Brooklyn. He's been pretty productive as well, been very consistent. 33, 27, 29, and 32 DraftKings points just in those 4 games. Now we're getting Huerter in a fast-paced game against the Bucks. I think if this game blows out as well, you'll probably see Huerter still out there. I mean, in that 22 or 23-point loss to the Knicks, Huerter still played 32 minutes. He was out there with Trae Young in the blowout. Like, I love Kevin Huerter as well today. I think he's one of the better value plays on this slate. 5,200 on Draftkings. Over on Yahoo, he's at shooting guard, and he is only $14. I think he's probably the top value play overall at shooting guard as well, especially if a lot of people are going to flock to Damian Lee. I don't think Damian Lee's a bad play today, but given that he's coming off a 53 fantasy point game, a lot of people are going to see that. They're going to want to play Damian Lee. Kevin Huerter should come in much lower owned. Obviously, I don't expect Damian Lee to have that kind of production or have that kind of productive game again. So Huerter makes for an easy pivot in tournaments, and even straight up, I think I would just prefer Huerter over Lee, especially like given the pace of this game. Even if it doesn't stay close, like Huerter and Trae Young are probably still going to be out there, and I think it's definitely fine to play both these guys together. We'll see Huerter play a lot of backup point guard, which when he's played backup point guard this season with Young off the floor, he's been very productive. Fast-paced game. Really like this spot for both of those Atlanta guys. But yeah, let's go ahead and move over to the shooting guard position. So at shooting guard, I think Jimmy Butler feels a little bit too cheap on DraftKings. I mean, $7,800 for Butler. This is definitely a guy you can play at this salary. With Goran Dragic back, I mean, his productions definitely took a hit. I mean, just the last few games, just 32, 34, 36 DK points, 43 DK points. Like, Butler's definitely not the elite stud that he was at that point of the season, like later or early December when he was playing like 40 minutes a night. He was nearly 9K some nights. I mean, I don't expect him to be that productive now, but still $7,800 for Jimmy Butler is a little bit too cheap. He's not my favorite guy to pay up for, but will definitely be in my player pool just given that price tag. I mean, that price tag just puts him in play for me. Chris Middleton I have quite a bit of interest in on Yahoo, where you have to play him at small forward. And just looking at the small forward position, really not much to like. I mean, Miles Bridges at 14 I have some interest in. Hunter and Robinson as values I think make some sense, but Tobias Harris versus Chris Middleton, I would prefer to go to Middleton. Oubre versus Middleton, I think I'd prefer Middleton there as well. Jonathan Isaac at 24 I'll have some interest in, but Chris Middleton definitely stands out over on Yahoo, and I think on DK you can play him as well at 7K, especially if Giannis is going to come into this game somewhat like limited or maybe with a little bit of an injury concern. Could see Middleton soak up some more usage. But a lot of guys in this mid-range I've already touched on that I like. Damian Lee coming off that massive game, 54 DraftKings points on Christmas Day against Houston, 31 minutes, had 22 points, 15 rebounds, and 4 assists, 3 steals as well. Obviously, don't expect that from Damian Lee. That was definitely an outlier performance. You're going to get probably 30 to 32 DraftKings points from this guy most nights. I mean, he's not going to put up 53 DK points again this season. If he does, I mean, my God, that'd just be, I mean, I would not expect that. Like, he's been like a 0.85 or 0.9 fantasy point per minute player this season. He just had like a lot of rebounds going his way that game. He was very hot from the field. I'll probably be fading Damian Lee today, especially if people are going to flock to him given that he's coming off a massive game. With the price tag up as well, I'll look elsewhere. Give me Aaron Holiday for cheaper. If Brogdon's out, I'd much rather play Holiday. For value at shooting guard, I think Glenn Robinson is definitely in play at 4,400. First game back from injury against Houston on Christmas Day. Played 37 minutes, had 30 DraftKings points. He's going to continue to start, going to continue to play pretty big minutes most nights. Against the Suns, a game that's got a high total and a close spread, you could definitely look to Glenn Robinson at this salary, firmly in play at shooting guard for value. I think I would probably play Kevin Huerter if I'm looking for a cheap shooting guard, but Robinson has small forward eligibility, and on Yahoo he's small forward, so you could definitely, you have flexibility with your roster. You could roster him at small forward. But yeah, let's go ahead and move over to that position, small forward. At the top, we got Giannis, 11-3 against the Hawks, excuse me. So Giannis, I think, is probably going to be in a void for me on today's slate, and that doesn't feel great. I mean, Giannis could absolutely go off against the Hawks here. Like, they have no one to stop him. I mean, Giannis is the most matchup-proof player in the league. Like, nobody can stop this guy just one-on-one. Philly definitely gave him some troubles, though. I watched a lot of that game. I was very heavy on Giannis in the Christmas Day slate. He played 30 minutes. He had 50 DraftKings points. He was I'm pretty sure he was wasn't on the floor like towards the end of the game, like when they were losing by like 15 with like 5 minutes left. Like, they didn't even bring Giannis back on the floor, which is a little bit concerning. He's probable though for this game on Friday. He's expected to play. Like, given that it's against the Hawks and there could be some blowout concern here, like, I could see them kind of not resting Giannis, but really taking it easy, like not playing him huge minutes. Obviously, if the game blows out, he's not going to play big minutes, but even if it's a close game, I don't think we're going to get like 36 minutes from Giannis. I think it's probably going to be like 30 to 32 minutes. Give me Trae Young over him today. That might be a hot take, but given that Trae Young's playing nearly 40 minutes right now, like, I want to go to Trae Young over Giannis. I think Trae Young's just a better play overall. So give me Young. Might be a hot take. I think he can outscore him. I think he plays more minutes. I know he's not nearly as productive just in terms of fantasy points per minute, like average as Giannis, but I feel a little bit better with Trae Young today. So other small forwards we could look to, I talked about Butler and Middleton, who I like. Aaron Gordon is someone I want to talk about on Yahoo. So on Draftkings, he's 6,400. I think you can probably look elsewhere. Like I like Draymond for a little bit cheaper. I'd even go to Oubre for cheaper. Jonathan Isaac you have for cheaper as well. But that over on Yahoo, that's where I had the most interest in Aaron Gordon. Only $19 over here. Really just stands out as one of the better power forward plays overall. I mean, if you look at the position, there are some good options at the top to pay up for. You obviously have Giannis you could go to. You got Sabonis at 38, Collins at 30, Draymond at 23 I have interest in. But definitely like Aaron Gordon all the way down here at $19. I like this matchup for him against Philly. I think this is a spot where we can see Aaron Gordon have some success. I mean, he put up a monster game this season earlier against Philly for what that's worth. It was one of his best games of the season. Played 36 minutes and had 48 fantasy points, 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 assists. That was his best game of the season, and it came against this Philly team. We know this Philly team is really good defensively, but they do play relatively fast. I'm pretty sure they're top 10 in pace this season, if I'm not mistaken. Philly's actually towards the bottom of the league in pace, which I didn't know. I thought they were more of like a faster-paced team than that with Ben Simmons at point guard. But Philly ranks 19th in pace this season. Orlando is 27th, so you're not really getting a fast-paced game here. I mean, you're just getting a really cheap price on Gordon. He's been playing much better as of late, which you like to see. 29 and 31 minutes the last two games, 33, 45 fantasy points. $19 on Yahoo. You really only need about 30 fantasy points for him to pay off that salary, and I think he can easily do that here. So, I mean, the price tag, that's what puts Gordon in play for me. It's at least good to see that he had his best game of the season against Philly earlier this year. He was able to contribute in multiple categories. It wasn't just like he got hot from the field. I mean, he had a lot of peripherals as well. Gordon's always a guy that can contribute in multiple categories than just scoring. On DraftKings, though, at 6,400, I think there are other guys I would rather play in that price range. But then 5K and below for like cheap value at small forward, really the only guy I like here is Glenn Robinson for 4,400 if you're going under 5K. I don't think there's really any punt plays I want to get to. Like Wesley Matthews, I guess you could consider. I mean, he's playing about 25 to 30 minutes most nights. The production's always inconsistent for Wesley Matthews, but it is a good matchup against the Hawks. He's really cheap. There are studs to pay up for today, so I mean, it's not the worst value play, but I wouldn't want him to be a core value for me. So let's just go ahead and move over to power forward. Sabonis and Collins, two guys I definitely want to start off with here. So Sabonis against the Heat for 8,100, I have quite a bit of interest in. And honestly, I think given the savings, I would prefer to roster him over Giannis today. Sabonis at 8,100 is just too cheap. I mean, this guy has legit 45 to 50 point upside every time he steps on the floor. His fantasy floor this season has pretty much been like 40 DK points. Like even on his bad games, he's still getting you 35 to 40 DK points. He's got the upside as well to pay off this price tag. Against Miami, like I'm not sure who they're going to use to guard him. I imagine Bam guards Miles Turner, so we might see someone like Myers Leonard on Sabonis or like Kelly Olynyk will guard Sabonis. I mean, that's a matchup that Sabonis can easily win. This dude's been so productive this season. He gets a lot of backup center minutes when Miles Turner's off the floor. That's when he's most productive. So really like Sabonis today. Also really like John Collins as well. Good to see that he played 35 minutes in his first game back from injury. Was not limited at all. Had 50 DraftKings points as well. 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Just a monster game from Collins. I think we could expect another big game from him here against the Bucks. I mean, it's not a good matchup. It's not nearly as good of a matchup as it was against Cleveland. But it's going to be a fast-paced game. There's going to be a lot of shot attempts in this game. A lot of possessions. A lot of opportunity for rebounds for Collins. I mean, 7,600, like, I think that is a little bit too cheap for Collins. Like, he's shown a lot of upside this season when he's healthy. In the few games that he has played this season, he's shown 50-point upside. If this game can stay close, I mean, it's very likely it's because of John Collins and Trae Young. So I would not mind at all stacking those two guys together. And if you can get Giannis in those builds as well, you could definitely do like that 3-man stack. Or if you wanted to drop down off of Giannis, you can maybe play Chris Middleton, which might make more sense given that you're already paying up for Young. Paying up for Giannis, Young, and Collins is going to really thin you out on salary. So that's a 3-man game stack you could do. You could put Herter in there as a value play, who I do like as well. So I have quite a bit of interest in both guys at the top of power forward position, Sabonis and Collins. I think on Yahoo, I would prefer to roster Collins, given that he is $8 cheaper, and that's a pretty big amount of savings you get. DraftKings, $500 difference. I probably feel a little bit better with Sabonis, but I think both guys are pretty strong plays today. But other power forward options, like guys like Isaac, Oubre, I have some interest in for tournaments. Not going to be core plays for me, though. Miles Bridges, I think, is a little bit too cheap for $4,800. Definitely like him at small forward on Yahoo, where he's really cheap there. Only $14. He does stand out as one of the better values. DeAndre Hunter as well, you could look to as a value for $4,700. I mean, he's just playing big minutes right now, over 30 minutes in like 6 of his last 7 games or 5 of his last 6 games. The minutes seem to be there for him. Fast-paced game against the Bucks. You could definitely look to DeAndre Hunter. He has had a lot of success in this matchup when he's faced the Bucks twice, averaging 32 DK points. So I have interest in him as a value. But really, that's it for like 4K and below. Maybe Bazley you could look to with Gallinari out. Bazley will start. He started on Thursday night. Not exactly sure like how he's doing, but he'll start again tonight or Friday night. So could be in play as a value. But that's really it for power forward. Let's go ahead and run through center real quick just before we end the video. So at center, I don't think I'm going to be paying up a ton at this position. Embiid against the Magic at 9,700. I can probably look elsewhere on today's slate. Don't feel like I need to roster Joel Embiid at this salary. Like, even if he goes for 55 DK points, that's not really crushing value. Like, in order for him to be a tournament-winning play at this salary, you need him to go for over 60 DK points. Obviously, he has that kind of upside, but there's other guys I would rather go to at center. Like, Adebayo's in a great spot. He's up to 8,900 on DraftKings, so at that salary, I don't think he's going to be like a core play for me either. Yahoo, I definitely have some interest in him at 36. I think that's where he's more appealing, where he's like the same price as Vucevic. Just give me Adebayo over Vucevic. We've seen this is a pretty good matchup as well. Like the Pacers, I believe, have allowed the 4th or 5th most fantasy points to centers this season. So I do have quite a bit of interest in Adebayo at his Yahoo salary. On DK, I do like Vucevic a ton for a little bit cheaper. Like Vooch and Adebayo are both $36 on Yahoo. Just give me Adebayo there. Where on DraftKings, there's a $1,200 difference. I would definitely prefer Vucevic. Even in this matchup against Embiid, we've seen that Vucevic can have success against Embiid. This game earlier this season against Philly, I don't think Embiid played in that game. But even if you just look at StatMuse and look at past seasons, like Vooch has been able to have success against Embiid. I know he had like a massive triple-double against him. I think it was either last year or the year before. Put up like 60 DraftKings points. 7,700 is too cheap for Vucevic. I was very heavy on him on the last slate against the Bulls, and he really let me down. I'm fine going right back to him on DK today, especially where he did see a little bit of a price decrease. You do have Collins there as well, and it's definitely close between those two guys. I think I'd probably slightly prefer Vucevic, but both guys are really good plays. You can play Vooch at center and Collins at power forward. You can still get them into the same lineup. Steven Adams is in a great matchup, so I definitely wanted to mention him. Steven Adams, not really a guy I play. I don't think I've played him much at all this season. But against this Hornets team, who allow the 2nd most fantasy points to centers, Adams is a really good option. But I do want to talk about some of the value we have at center. So Miles Turner is $5,600 on DraftKings. Fine play, not a guy I'd consider like a core play, though. I really like him on Yahoo, where he's only $19. I think that's where he stands out the most. I mean, Miles Turner just has too much upside to like completely write off at this salary. If you just look at the last like 5-6 games, I mean, he's gone for at least 24 fantasy points in 5 straight games, 43, 35, 32, 24, 41 fantasy points. I know game log isn't everything, but this season, I mean, Miles Turner's pretty much been a fantasy point per minute player, if not better. This game should stay close, so we're probably going to get 30, 32 minutes from Miles Turner, which is what he's playing in close games this season, as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. Like, he has a ton of upside in terms of blocks. He can get you a double-double on Yahoo, where blocks are worth 3 points. I think that's where Turner really like gets his value from. You really only need like 30 fantasy points from him to pay off the salary. I think both him and Aaron Gordon at $19 are severely underpriced on Yahoo. Like, both those guys should be like $25, $26 today. The fact that we're getting them both at 19 make them really stand out as just being really underpriced plays today over on Yahoo. So really like Turner at his Yahoo salary. On DK, he's fine, but there are guys cheaper that we're about to talk about that I do prefer. So one of the guys I really like for cheaper is Aaron Baines, $4,800 on DK. Played big minutes the last 2 games, 30 and 32 minutes. We do already know that DeAndre Ayton is out for Friday, so he's not going to play. This is a great matchup for Baines against the Warriors. This is a Warriors team that does struggle to defend bigs. Baines had a monster game against the Warriors earlier this season. 59 DraftKings points in 28 minutes, 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists. I mean, I don't expect Baines to put up 59 DK points again, but I think it's very likely you get probably 30 plus from him. And at 4,800, getting a guy that projects for nearly 30 DraftKings points, if not more, makes him really stand out. I mean, he's been a fantasy point per minute player this season. And right now, he's getting about 30 to 32 minutes a night. I really like him at 4,800. I think he's one of the better values at center on DK. And you can definitely play him on Yahoo as well if you want to go cheap at center. I mean, he's only $13 on Yahoo. Really good value over there as well. But then the last guy we'll talk about is Willie Cauley-Stein. So Willie Cauley-Stein just been way too cheap on DraftKings the last few days, and I don't know why they're not adjusting his price. At 4,500, for him to be like a good tournament play at the salary, really only need him to get about 28 to 30 DraftKings points to be a really good play. I mean, I'd say he probably projects for that, especially given the minutes that he's playing right now. He's played 30 and 31 minutes the last two games, which is something we haven't seen in the past. Like, they've been limiting Cauley-Stein to about 24 to 26 minutes. Now that he's getting 30-plus minutes a night, that's where I expect he plays again tonight against the Suns. He's been a pretty productive player this season as well, when given the minutes, averaging about a fantasy point per minute. This is definitely a Suns team that you can beat down low. They have struggled to defend center, so I really like Willie Cauley-Stein. I think he's one of the better values at center. Him and Baines just really stand out as values of the position, and there's a lot of underpriced players that I like at center today. Baines and WCS definitely stand out as two of the better options. But I think that's really it for center. I think we covered all the value, guys. I think we pretty much hit on everything for this 5-game slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully it helped you. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below. As always, I greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. You can also follow me on Twitter, link down below at DFS by Noah. And if you haven't yet, you can check out all the exclusive content I have to offer over on Patreon. I post NBA content Monday through Friday, and I also put up a ton of NFL stuff throughout the week. Mainly on the weekends is when I post all my NFL content for the main slate. So check all that out. Link down below, patreon.com/DFS by Noah. Good luck on the slate. Appreciate you guys watching the video. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.